And here we are now looking at the second heat of the morning, the second quarter-final of the Prince Albert. These athletes having to race twice today to book their place in the final. And we've got the Yale University crew on the left-hand side, the right-hand side, the Proteus-Eretus crew from Holland on the on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, it's Yale. Race 2, a heat of the Prince Albert. Yale University against Proteus-Eretus from the Netherlands.
Attention, as you were.
And just here there, the umpire's called as you were. He's not happy about something. I think it may actually be those ducks. But he's decided now he can go. And those tense moments when you have to wait like that. But they've cut off clean. The athletes are concentrated. The ducks have got out the way. And here we have this quarter-final of the Prince Albert, Yale University against Proteus-Eretus, and it is Yale on the left-hand side there with the blades split in half that look like they've had a really, really explosive start. Really, really high start. Great racing there.
Like a rocket, they went off 45 strokes a minute. And we've seen this from a number of the American crews, 45 strokes a minute and serious power through the water compared to the Delftsche Studenten, the Roeivereeniging Proteus-Eretus boat on the near side of this screen, who went off at 50.5 strokes a minute. So they went off like a rocket, but they shortened up. So that means they had a slightly shorter stroke than the American boat on the far side. And it's a constant battle as to what is quicker off the start, fast and short or slightly slower and longer. But making the best of it now, Yale University nearly up to half a length in this early stages, so they've certainly got their start down to a T, and they're making the best of that now, starting to stride out and get into their race rhythm.
Yeah, Yale University, they've just dropped their striding just a small amount there. You can see they're beginning to get a push on their boat. The Proteus-Eretus boat on this side, the orange and the blue strip there, they're staying very, very high actually, pressing it on, and they're going to be fighting at this moment to stay up with the American college crew, still at 39 strokes per minute, Peter.
It's so interesting, this concept of striding down. For those that aren't familiar with it, getting the boat up to speed when you've got all of that weight sat stationary on a starting block is no mean feat. It takes a huge amount of power and energy to lift the boat up and get it moving. And once it is moving, you need to then reach for length in your stroke, a longer stroke, power through the middle of the stroke, and get into a race rhythm that you can maintain for 2K. So the ways of doing that are really interesting. We're seeing that they're striding out now. The Americans on the far side down to 35, 36 strokes a minute, but the Dutch on the near side still up at 38. So they know that they're dropping back, and it can be quite key in a race strategy to maintain a slightly higher rate of striking to try and draw back on those out in front and keep up that start speed before striding out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yesterday when we spoke to the Dutch after they beat Oxford Brookes, they felt that it was exactly what they'd expected. They'd raced before, they knew what to expect. And I think that's probably given them some comfort there, because it is a club that hasn't had a success at Henley for a long time. In fact, they haven't been here at Henley for the past 15 years, so there's no club memory of this regatta. There's no one talking about the barrier times and Forley and the course. They didn't have access to these wonderful pictures to do their research, and having some familiarity, I think, I know for myself as an athlete, was really, really helpful. But looking at this point now, we're coming into the sort of the middle stride part of the race, and Yale, they've not taken advantage of that early lead. In fact, I'd say the Dutch have come up a little bit. You can see their bow ball is now halfway down the American crew, and the Americans will be feeling that pressure.
They will be feeling a huge amount of pressure here. They did well beating Harvard B yesterday. They completed the course in 7 minutes, which is slightly quicker than the Durham race we saw earlier, but not quite as quick as the Neerhouse boat who broke a record yesterday. Now this Delftsche Studenten boat on the right-hand side of the screen, the Dutch boat there, they were quite quick, 7:04 yesterday, so very much on par with this Yale boat. So I expect this is going to be a really, really tight one. It's going to be a battle of the minds, and certainly a battle of their strategies. A really key question here is, do you race your race strategy, or do you race the boat alongside you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, it's match racing. It is match racing, and there's so much psychology in this. You can have the best race plan in the world, but actually, if another boat is beginning to move on you, you need to trust yourself, trust your training, that you have the ability to go with them in the right way, long and strong. And it is interesting because when we spoke again to the Dutch, they were concerned about racing twice. They felt that would be very, very tough today. And I wonder if they just had that in their minds during the start, but right now they'll be getting a whole lot of feedback from the Yale crew. They're beginning to move on them, and that is that point where you start to race the other crew. You can feel them, you can see them, and the American crew, you know, how are they feeling right now?
I can imagine very, very nervous. Now, they're striking 34 strokes a minute, which makes me think that they've got an extra gear to go up if they need to, a place to react if they see the Proteus boat start to really move up on them. We just passed Upper Thames there, Upper Thames Rowing Club on the left-hand side of the screen. That's usually quite a key point in these crews' race strategies, to either start to wind it up if they're behind before they really kick it off as they go through the enclosures at the top of the screen there. Now, this Delftsche Studenten boat in the blue and orange, they'll be thinking, what are we going to do? We can see on the progress boards they've started to close down that gap. They're still striking 36, so they're going to be thinking now, when do we need to wind it up if we're going to stand a chance of rowing through this Yale boat?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at that Yale crew, the big Ys on their fronts. You see their stroke man there. He is using his legs beautifully, really driving that stroke through, lifting his crew, lifting his boat. But you can see there is a little bit of rocking and rolling in that boat, and that'll be taking off a bit of boat speed, taking out a bit of energy. On the right-hand side looking, or left-hand side now looking at the Dutch, we can see that looks a bit smoother, but now let's see where they are against each other. We have the Yale crew here coming past our shot, looking long and strong. Where are the Dutch against them?
Well, Yale just did a gear change there. They lifted it up to 36, and my goodness, has it had an impact. The Dutch boat didn't see it coming, and that has allowed the Yale boat to pull out ahead to a full length coming through the enclosures, making it a real mountain for the Dutch boat to climb if they're going to row through them. And the Americans in that Yale boat don't look phased by it at all. That was a really clean lift in the rating, lift in the rhythm, and they are well into their finishing burn now, starting to really wind it up coming into the last couple of 100 metres.
Yeah, absolutely. Yale, they haven't been finalists in this event since 2009. They could be booking their place into the semi-final later on today and the last couple of races right now, because it is. They've made that move. The Dutch crew were trying to counter Yale's fast start. They made a really big push. Perhaps they started to race the other crew, and when the other crew moved again, they couldn't dig deeper and find something else. And it looks like on the right-hand side, as you're watching, we're watching Yale University against Delftsche Studenten on the left-hand side, and it is Yale it's Yale University that are taking the lead at the moment. They're pressing past the progress board. They'll have another 15 strokes to go. They'll be counting it out. Their cocks will be calling it out. And concentrate, boys. Get it home safe. You have got a semi-final later on today. Yale University there beating Delftsche Studenten in that quarter-final of the Prince Albert Challenge Cup. And Yale, you can see the toll on the athletes. The bellman bent over, absolutely delighted. But the Dutch there, oh my God, they gave it everything they had. Those men should be proud, but oh, that's tough, eh?